If you've been following this witch wound series, we've talked about what the witch wound is, and I shared what healing actually looked like in my own life. And today I want to share 10 signs that you are already healing your witch wound. And I especially like signs 6 and 7 and 10 because they're not the typical things that people think of and are often missed because they're less dramatic or obvious. But that's the thing. Healing often doesn't look dramatic in the moment, and only looking back can you see how far you've come. But getting that reassurance that you are actually healing while you're in the process can help motivate you to keep going and celebrate and witness your own progress. So let's get into it. The 10 signs that you're already healing your witch wound. And as I go through these, just notice which ones resonate with you. And you may discover that you're further along than you thought. So 1, you stop asking permission to be yourself. Maybe you notice yourself worrying less about whether you're allowed to express yourself. You begin giving yourself permission to be more yourself, show up more authentically, and speak up. And this shows that you're no longer shrinking yourself to be understood or accepted or validated by others, and instead loving yourself more deeply in knowing that it's okay to show up exactly as you are. Number 2, you share your gifts before you feel completely ready. Even when you feel fear around speaking up or sharing your authentic self, you do it anyway and hold yourself through that process or get support from others who help hold you through it. And as I'm sharing these, I'm hearing my little earrings dingle like bells, and it's so cute. Anyway, so back to the point, maybe you walk into a meeting and you speak up when you have an idea or share an opinion and you no longer hold yourself back. Maybe you finally start that business that your heart has been calling you towards because you would rather take the risk of following your dreams than the risk of never going after what you want and knowing what's going to happen. Maybe you finally post that video on YouTube or social media and allow yourself to be seen, or share your art and allow yourself to be seen in those gifts in that way. And none of these things mean that the fear isn't still there. But it means that you are doing it anyway and building the confidence through doing it. Because you realize that confidence doesn't come first, it's built through that action. So the fear can still be there, but it no longer makes those decisions for you. Number 3, you trust your own intuition more than outside authorities. When you are making a choice or are unsure of something, you consult with yourself first and find your own answers from within. And you can still learn from teachers or books or coaches or ask other people for their opinion, but you stop assuming that everyone else knows the answer or your path or yourself better than you do. Instead, your own intuition really becomes your compass, and you soothe your fear when it tries to tell you that doing that isn't safe or logical, because you know that the safe, logical way isn't always the best way for you. You trust your own inner knowing over any logical argument. Number 4, you become less afraid of being misunderstood. Being misunderstood still stings sometimes, sure, but it no longer keeps you silent. You begin realizing that being your true, unwatered down, authentic self naturally means that some people won't understand you. Some people won't like you. And that's okay. You're not for everyone. And that's actually a good thing, because it helps filter out those who are not meant for you. And instead it helps you attract those who do truly vibe with you and get you. Number 5, you stop making yourself smaller. You stop hiding your sensitivity, spirituality, your creativity, your wisdom, and instead start to own who you are, what you believe, what you stand for, and no longer hide those things. This doesn't have to mean that you're super loud about it either, but that you're no longer abandoning yourself and spending so much energy trying to manage yourself in order to be accepted. And little by little, you allow yourself to take up the natural space that is your birthright for being here and existing on this planet, in this life. Number 6, you begin creating instead of consuming. I think this is a big one. Instead of constantly searching for another answer, another course, another program, another teacher, or passively doom scrolling and consuming other people's creations or content, you begin expressing what is moving through you. You create and write and speak and build because you realize that your own voice and your own experiences have value too. This doesn't mean that you never consume anyone else's creations or content, but just that you're starting to throw your own hat in the ring by creating too. Even if you don't share your creations publicly, you still allow yourself to have that creative expression move through you and actually become expressed and manifested in being real in this world. Number 7, your nervous system starts associating visibility with safety. Every time you speak up or post something, you allow yourself to be seen and known. And in this, you're rewriting your subconscious mind and nervous system to know that nothing terrible is going to happen, that visibility does not equal danger. And that is profound healing because we often build up this fear so much in our head. But really, even if you do get criticism or trolls or negative attention, you can hold yourself through it and realize that someone else's opinion doesn't have to hold so much weight. You realize that if someone is throwing negativity or hate at you, that's not your kind of people. Because if you wouldn't say or do those things to someone else, then that means that they're not like you. And do you really want to be taking in the opinions of people who don't have the kind of life that you want and don't conduct and hold themselves in ways that you would or are in integrity for you? I experienced this personally when my Instagram went viral for an art video that I posted years back. I started getting hundreds of comments on this reel, and a lot of them were kind, but then many started coming in that were super critical and downright mean, saying like that my art sucked and that I sucked and whatever. And at first it totally stung, but then I realized that those same people who are criticizing me are not out there doing what I'm doing. They're not sharing their art or their voice. Instead, they have their own inner critic that tells them that they suck and that they can't do those things. And then they're just projecting that onto me because they see me out there doing what they won't. Number 8, you choose authenticity over belonging. You stop asking what version of me will be accepted. And instead you begin to just show up in whatever way feels true to you in that moment. And yes, sometimes authenticity costs belonging in certain spaces. But being inauthentic means abandoning yourself. And authenticity leads you towards the places and people where you do truly belong. Number 9, you stop hiding parts of yourself depending on who's in the room. So similar to the last point, you stop asking, how do I need to act in this situation or around this certain person? And you become more consistent in just showing up as yourself. We often have learned to be many different versions of ourselves. And right, like the me that I am around my parents, the me that I am who shows up to work, the version of me who posts online, the version of me who only my closest friends know, and the totally unmasked version of me that I am when I'm by myself. And soon enough, those versions fragment who you are and can make you feel like you don't even know who you are. And it takes a ton of emotional and mental and sometimes even physical energy to manage yourself and monitor yourself in that way. And yes, in some situations, you have to show up a bit different. It's reasonable that you can't be the weird goofball that you are around your friends when you're at work or in a professional setting. But can you allow just a little less filtering, a little more authenticity across all spaces, so that you can feel a little less fragmented and more whole? And the last one, you feel called to help others from lived experience instead of proving your expertise. This may be one of the deepest yet least talked about signs. This is when you stop feeling like you need to know everything or have just the right credentials to validate that you're good enough. I think the world is shifting in this way. For so long, it's been that in order to be taken seriously, you had to go to college and get a degree or get a license or a certification or have tons of years of professional experience in order to prove that you're good enough to have a certain skill or do a certain job. And I'm not saying that anyone should just be able to do anything no matter their experience or knowledge. There are a lot of people out there who are maybe trying to do things that maybe they're not qualified for through experience. But I am saying that I see a big shift in how that marker is measured and what types of experience counts. For example, along my journey, I always knew that I wanted to help people heal, and that first I needed to heal myself. And this caused me to go on the path of reading hundreds of books, taking tons of courses and programs, and still never feeling good enough, getting certifications and all the things. I even started a master's program to become a licensed therapist because my inner critic was telling me that that was the only thing that would make me valid or good enough to do this type of work. But I quickly realized that I already had the knowledge and the real lived experience to do this work and to do it well. A lot of, not everything, but a lot of what I was learning in my master's program, I already knew. So it was like, do I really need a piece of paper with a stamp on it to validate that I know what I already know and have what I have to offer? And this also came up for a past client of mine who wanted to teach yoga and sound healing and felt like she couldn't because she wasn't officially certified. And while I would never suggest to anyone that they claim to be certified when they're not, she had decades of lived experience and study and practice in both spaces. So did she really need a piece of paper to validate that she was good enough to do those things? And one last example that I'll share here, because I think that this point is really nuanced and important. And that's that years ago, I started working for a crisis support center. I was hired as an entry-level recovery coach, is what they called it. And we were in training for about a month, maybe a little more, because the facility was still being built. And upon my first day walking into that job, one of the higher-ups asked, "Who here has experience?" And I raised my hand. And he asked me what experience I had, and I was like, well, I don't have professional experience, but I have a ton of personal experience. And he just kind of like scoffed and half rolled his eyes and moved on to the next person and was like, oh, that doesn't count. But then during the training, I was one of the people who raised their hand the most and answered questions correctly and demonstrated that I really knew what I was talking about, and ended up being promoted to the director of education, teaching and training the other staff members before I even really started the job. So this goes to show that even if others judge you for your lack of experience based on these, what I see as old standards, that does not mean that you're not good enough or skilled or experienced or knowledgeable enough. It just means that they're maybe using what I see, again, as those old measuring sticks to measure your value. So with the last sign being that you feel called to help others from lived experience instead of proving your expertise, that does not mean that you're doing things that you don't know how to do or making false claims about your experience or going beyond your scope of expertise, but it does mean that you are honoring your own lived experience and knowledge instead of constantly feeling like you need more or you need an institution or someone else to validate it for you. It also means that you stop feeling like you have to know everything to be good enough, to be ready. Instead, you simply just share what you have lived, what you have learned, what you have practiced. And you trust that that is enough. So if you recognize yourself in any or several of these signs, I hope that you'll take a moment to acknowledge how far you've already come and recognize the big or small ways that you are living less from fear and more from your authentic sharing of your true self. And if you'd like to experience the mini witch wound healing meditation that I created, you can watch that in the suggested video that I'll also link below. See you next time.